Mesmer video. Guild Wars 2, of course. Just wanted to go over a spec setup that I've been playing with. I rather enjoy myself. I've had a few people asking me what actually I use, so I decided to go ahead and make a quick video kind of showing the weapons I use, why, different skills, different traits, the reason I don't use certain weapons, and how it works with my play style. Again, the game itself, there's so many different ways you can actually do stuff that you can change stuff up for your own style. So I did want to go ahead and start out. Of course, my weapons of choice are my main weapon, which, as you can see, I kind of got them swapped around, but my main weapon is a staff. I use a 30% crit steal health, just kind of a passive healing ability. Basically, when I am running, excuse me, when I am running in with a staff, it's more for a defensive style play. With the way I have things set up, it seems to work fairly well. I can still do a decent amount of damage to other players. I have the survivability I need, so overall it works pretty good. And when I really want to get into the rut of things, I've got of course, my sword and my pistol. The sword, of course, just for additional damage, and my pistol, I've got an additional bleed, just to kind of give any bleed effects additional. Now, I'm sure there could be some other ones I could probably go with, but it's just kind of been what I've been running around with right now so far. So, and as for the different runes, I use a superior rune of undead, all 6. The reason for this is it increases my condition damage from using my sword or my staff ability with my random conditions that are thrown out on people. It does additional damage, and then the toughness itself as well gives me the survivability I need. And then the 6th rune, 5% of toughness, becomes condition damage, which is nice because I've got a decent amount of toughness, so my condition damage is also kind of jacked up a little bit. Tends to kind of help out with the damage again. And then for my amulet, I use the toughness, vitality, power, just kind of overall good stats for the style I play. Again, some people may disagree. Some people may say there are different runes, gems, whatever you want to call them, amulets that could work better, and I'm sure there is. But again, this is just kind of going off of my play style and what works best for me. So, on to my slot skills, I guess you could say. I've chose to run, of course. I play kind of a style where I keep my illusions up as much as possible. Part of it is because it increases my damage, it decreases the damage I take, and it's a good confusion factor for people. When people are trying to tunnel me and I pop my illusions, kind of dip and dive, they can lose track of me. One thing I did want to note, that a good person will auto-target you, meaning they will mark you with the target if you've ever noticed in structured PvP, you'll see the little red target above somebody's head. That is someone who put a target on you, and it kind of makes you stick out a little bit. With the Mesmers, as well as thieves, I believe, when we disappear, that target is removed. So you got to learn to kind of figure out when you've got a target. Like myself, I'll watch the person I'm fighting, and if I notice they're tunneling me after I'm dropping illusion after illusion after illusion, I've got a pretty good idea that they threw their target on me, and what I will do is I will stealth to remove that while my clones are still out, which 85% of the time will deter them into fighting one of my clones instead. Works nice. Ooh, there goes the kitty. Alright, well, my Ether Feast. Again, it does a nice heal, and then with the additional illusions that are out there constantly, it gives a nice heal. When it's said and done, when I need to use it, it pops a fairly decent amount, but you got to make sure to try to do it when you've got all 3 up, just because the additional 640 per illusion. It's an extra roughly a little under 2k heal, so you're looking at 5, 7, 8 to 9k heal on average, which is not bad at all. I use the Signet of Domination, of course, because I use my staff. I'm throwing out conditions on people constantly, and so this just improves the damage continues, and that goes along with the runes I use. So it's doubling up on them. It allows me to place the conditions and kind of move about if I need to. And then the active part of it is really nice. It's a stun. I usually use that in conjunction when I'm running around with the sword and pistol, which I'll explain a little bit when I get to that point. Decoy, lifesaver, many times. You're getting tunneled, you're getting nailed, whatever the case might be. You hit that, you at least got a few seconds, plus it will pop out an illusion for you, of course. So it's another way to confuse, deter, whatever you want to call it, the person that's hammering on you. You then have your arcane thievery. Really nice for when you're fighting somebody who can throw up a lot of boons or drop a lot of conditions on you. You don't have to wait until they're full up with conditions or you're full up with boons. You got to kind of, depending on the fight, depending on how much health you have, they have, the things that are going on, you kind of learn when the best time is to use that ability. I try to myself save it a lot of times for Guardians, because Guardians seem to pop out a lot of different boons, and I love stealing that from them. And then my Elite, Moomorph. It's an okay ability. It can be a good player will know when to dodge this ability, and it can be dodged. If they see you cast it, because you're basically stuck in one spot casting it at a time. It's a rather long cooldown. But if you can nail it on someone, it can be a game changer. Not gonna lie, but it's a matter of getting it off. A good player will just simply dodge it, and you're still on a cooldown with it. The other elite skill I tend to actually use is mass invisibility. A lot of people say to go with time warp, which is nice. It's a big DPS increase, but I'm usually trying. I play kind of more the defensive style. If I've got a group, I do what I can to help, but I tend to try to play the defensive style, taking the nodes and whatnot. So I kind of want the survivability a little bit more, which mass invisibility gives you. That in conjunction with decoy is, well, as you see, 5 seconds there, 8 seconds there, or 3 seconds there. So you got a total of 8 seconds of stealth, which can be a real nice amount of time to get away and still drop a heal. Keep in mind that if you are stealthed and you pop your heal, it will bring you out, but you've got the ability to cast that heal, and usually you're going to get it off before you're even noticed. But them are my my utility skills, slot skills, whatever you want to call them. Them are basically what I use. And then of course you've got your main, my staff when chaos. Got your phase retreat, etc., etc. Myself, I try to drop Chaos Storm as much as I possibly can and get my illusions to go through, use their abilities through it. Does some nice effects, but you got to try to get it down. If you notice that your opponent's locked down in one spot, drop it right smack on. Lovely ability. Now, on to the sword, sword and pistol. Depending on the situation, I've kind of started, I'll use my magic bullet to stun them. That's my biggest thing. And depending, I've learned, because of terrain, you can have issues with illusionary leap. A lot of people have complained about it. You kind of got to play with it. Once you get comfortable with it, you learn where it's going to work and where it doesn't. And usually once you get that, you're okay, but then you will still have issues. What I do is I'll use my bullet. I will attempt to use the illusionary leap. If the illusionary leap does happen to fail, this is where my secondary stun comes in, which gives me time to run up into him. At the same time, I can drop my duelist, or I can get right up into him and blurred frenzy. Now, again, with the setup I have, before you use this Blurred Frenzy, try to make sure you have all 3 clones out, because the way my traits are set up, that's an additional 9% damage, which I'll show you why, but comes in handy. Now, most of the time, I will sit at a range, so I'm using my staff. But when I've got to get up close, this combination works fairly nice. It's nice to have that, 2 seconds where I'm not getting smacked and where they are just getting decimated. On top of it, they've usually got a cripple from my illusionary leap. Really nice, keeps them slow, and the duelist, of course, along with whatever clones I have. Now, I did want to kind of touch base on why I use these versus the other ones. Greatsword, I'll start out with. Greatsword is a nice weapon choice. It does do a decent amount of damage, but the issue with that is, to get your full potential, you want to be as far away as possible. And when you're in a structured PvP, it can be a pain sometimes to be sitting way in the back, not being in the group. My playstyle, I don't like to stand way back, but I don't like to be right in the front lines if I can help it. And so the great sword, you usually aren't going to get your full potential, especially in some of the maps where it's kind of hard to be a good distance away. So if you can work with it, it will work. I used to use it. It is a good weapon. It does work well, just not as well as the sword and pistol, in my opinion. The staff is always, from how I've played and what I've noticed of many others, you always want to have the staff at least there. Just a big thing to have. And then you've got to choose your other weapons. The scepter. Scepter's a no-no. Basically, every 3 casts, you're overriding your illusions. So if you've got one of your fans sitting out and you pop that 3rd one, you override it, and it really sucks. They need to adjust that, in my opinion, but you will override it. The abilities that come with it are nice, but you will end up kind of hurting yourself with that one, in my opinion. Sword, kind of self-explanatory. You're going to do more damage with the pistol than you are with the sword. A lot of people have crunched numbers, and it does seem, it just, with the situational, the pistol comes out better. I've actually heard that sword does have higher damage, but it's hard to get it because you have to be perfectly timed out. You have to be positioned just right. So, alright, that's my thoughts on the weapons. Now my traits. And as you can tell, this happens constantly where my traits are getting reset, and I'm not sure why. And so I will have to go in and reset them. Alright, there we go. I believe that's how I have it set up. I go with a 10, 25, 25, 0, and 10 setup, as you can see here. You are more than welcome to pause the video if you want to kind of, if you're interested in the spec and actually going with it. Of course, the 5 points are just there. But I go with, now a lot of people aren't, I guess, a real big fan of this ability. I've seen that it works nice for me because, again, my playstyle, my illusions are constantly up, so I want them to dish out as much damage as they possibly can. Fury, I want them to crit. Whenever they're able to crit, I want them to crit, and the reason for that being, inflicts bleeding on critical hits. So the more they're crit, the more bleeds are thrown out, in conjunction with my pistol rune that I have on. I believe they do stack, which does increase the bleed. And of course, you need this. I think this is basically a given for any spec. Every time you dodge, you will throw out a clone. Very nice to have, just kind of a no-nonsense ability. And then I've got the confusing. Because your illusions do die, sometimes rather quick, it's nice to throw that confusion out on the enemies when they have killed them, or I have myself. It just gives a little bit of extra survivability, in my opinion. Works rather well. But again, trying to keep your illusions up as much as possible. I go down 3% reduced damage. this is why you want to keep your illusions up at all times. You got all three. You got 9% reduced damage, protection for 2 seconds when you gain regeneration, which, if I can find, I believe, I did not take. Yep. Gains protection for 2 seconds when you gain regeneration. Usually, with the other specs, as I was just showing you, you can come down here with your fans all up. You're going to constantly get a regen, and you're going to constantly have protection. This style does work for me. This is why I go with this. The 50% toughness, again, I'm adding survivability when I've got my staff. Works. It does, that 50 does make a difference and does help. And then again, right here, as you can see, it works right in conjunction. 5% of toughness as a bonus condition damage. So there's another 5% to my condition damage. And all I'm doing basically is leaving my illusions up and using my number one skill. You've got to pay attention. If you're not paying attention, then it's not going to work. But it does work fairly well as long as you're watching. And then the summoning skills recharge 20% faster. Basically, my duelist, the CD on it recharges faster. My retreat recharges faster, etc., etc. And then again, 3% more damage for each of your active illusions. Once again, another reason to keep all three of them up. Kind of a necessity, but when you look at that, compared with that, that's 9% reduced damage, 9% increased damage, plus you've got a buttload of conditions because your number one skill is constantly, as you can see, burning, bleeding, vulnerability, and then you've got might and fury that are given back to allies and yourself. So you're constantly dropping them conditions, which it works really nicely, and you got 9% more because that also tacks on with that. Now, just to kind of show you, I'm sitting here by the target dummies. Now, usually what I will try to do, I will try to drop it, throw it, treat. Now, if I've got a big group of people, then I will go ahead and throw my number 4 on my armor. And as you can see, I'm hitting for decent numbers, and they're popping around. Pop, keep my illusions up again, and this is all dependent on the group, your style. You can also boom, pop in there, and it is an AoE, and because I've still got all 3 illusions up, I'm still doing a fairly decent amount of damage. Keep in mind, anytime you've got an illusion, like right now, I'm down one, do a quick dodge. Boom. And as long as you're in combat, you will throw another clone up on there. So, that is kind of my overall, what I run with. It takes a little bit of getting used to. It's not probably the ideal spec for everybody, but it does work rather well for me. As you can see in most of my videos I post up, it's not a top dog, but it's kind of a happy medium. It gives me some damage burst, it gives me the survivability, so it's a good combination of the two. And once you learn how to do it, keep your movement, constantly try to keep moving it. It makes it 10 times easier to confuse people as long as you're moving around. So I hope this video helps out somebody. If not more than just somebody. Be sure to subscribe and like the video and more on my channel here. I try to post up videos daily, if not every other day, just random footage. So sometimes they're full-length PvP videos, and other times they're just cutouts. It depends on how the match goes. I will cut them out if it's a boring match and there's only a couple good moments in it. But otherwise, I'll throw up good ones. If there's anything in particular you guys want to see or got any questions, feel free to comment below. I try to get back to the comments and reply to people, usually within a day or so. So enjoy and happy hunting.